All right, so that little blade didn't work out as well, so I went and got my big saw here with a demolition blade on it. I'm gonna give this a shot. That one wasn't cutting straight. The blade length really wasn't long enough. Ended up breaking the blade after I stubbed it and bent it. I don't think this was gonna stub and bend. Way more durable. Let's give this one a shot and see what happens. All right, we've chosen the site where we're going to be building our high tunnel greenhouse. And I don't know if you can see it on the video or not, but I have a flag that's laid out in the four corners. One here, one down there, one down here, and then one just out of camera view right over here somewhere. The high tunnel that we chose is 24 foot wide, 60 foot long. So I've taken my 100-foot measuring tape and I've just kind of laid out 10 feet off of the neighbor's property fence right there. That's actually our fence, but you know what I'm saying. So we've came 10 feet out. That way we can get behind it and cut grass and stuff like that. We don't have no intentions of storing anything back there because we don't want to make it ugly for the neighbors. So 10 feet out, 60 feet up to this flag here, and then 24 feet over from that corner over there, and then 60 feet up. One of the things we're going to do is we have some ground cloth from one of our previous projects and landscape fabric, and it's nursery grade. We're going to put that down right along the edges of where we're going to put our ground stakes. And that's just to kind of keep grass from coming up just on the inside and just on the outside of the where the high tunnel meets the ground. We don't want grass coming up there because we don't want to have to come out with a weed eater and a lawnmower and risk damaging our high tunnel. So we're going to just put down a little 2-foot strip of fabric. The roll that I have is 6 foot wide. We're going to cut it in 2-foot strips and go ahead and stake that down, and let's go ahead and get that part started. All right, correction. I had decided previously and forgot to mention that we're going to go 3 foot wide. We're just going to split this roll in half right down the middle. 1.5 feet of fabric on the outside, 1.5 feet of fabric on the inside of the tunnel. All right, I got the fabric rolled out. We got about an hour of daylight left, so I'm gonna go ahead and show you some stuff. I've got my 100-foot tape, measuring tape out here, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you how we square the greenhouse. If you just sight and you look at it, eyeballing it, it looks straight, but in actuality, the whole thing may be just a little bit like this. So what we're gonna do is measure from corner to corner until the numbers are exactly the same, and that'll ensure that the thing is perfectly square. So let's go ahead and show you a little demonstration of that. All right, so pull it straight across there. Lay it as straight, diagonal as you can. So we're at 64 feet and 8 inches. So now I'm gonna go to that flag up there and measure diagonal to this corner. All right, we're at 64 feet, 8.5 inches. That's pretty square. You're only a 1/2 inch tolerance difference. So we're gonna go ahead and call this square. It's a greenhouse, it doesn't have to be perfect. If this was finished carpentry, we'd want to get it down to the exact 1/8 of an inch probably. So let's go ahead and do our ground stakes. Okay, so I've got a nail here. I'm gonna go ahead and pull my flag out because the nail has got it marked. I'm gonna flip my landscape fabric back over and find my nail. And then I'm gonna use my propane torch and just make a little hole big enough for the pipe to go down into. All right. Now I'll take my pipe, and I have a corner level here. And from outside to outside, it's gonna be 24 feet. So I'm just gonna go to the outside of the nail. And from the front of the nail down there, it's gonna be 60 feet. So that'll help me find the corner. Take my hammer and just give it a couple of taps. All right, so that'll just get it started. Now I can look at my bubble level and get it all plumb that way. Look at my other one. Plumb that way. Now you do want to make sure that your poles are perfectly plumb, straight up and down, because if it's off just a little bit, and then you get 10 to 12 feet up in the air, your poles are going to be all wonky looking. So try to get these as perfect as you can. Went in pretty easy. Now, because the instructions on my high tunnel kit says the ground stakes should be 8 to 12 inches out of the ground, I'm going to shoot for the 12-inch mark. Now, these pipes, these ground pipes, they're not of usual size. These are 1 3/8. When you try to find a driver that goes over the cap and then you hit the driver so it doesn't mar the top of this post, those are not really something you can easily find. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shoot for 12 inches, and then after I pull a string and get them all straight, if it's marred so bad that I can't get my post in there, then I can come through and just move down a little bit and then cut them all the same height, which I'm probably going to end up having to do that anyway. So let's start with the safe number and go for 12 inches. All right, 12 inches. We got our first corner post set. Let's go to our other corner post. We'll get all 4 corners set, and then we'll come back, pull a string, and then we'll start putting in our other post all down the lines. Take my nail, put it right in the place of my flag, pull my flag, and we'll burn a hole for our post. Let's set our post. Check our level, our plumb. Not bad. Okay. 13 and a half, 12 and a quarter. Inches. All right, now we can pull a string, we can check our level, or we can go put the other 2 ground posts in. So even though that I have pretty straight level ground and each of my posts are at 12 inches, I'll throw my line level on there. This line's nice and tight. And we're showing that this side is just a little higher than the other side. So we'll have to lower that end to bring our level back to the center, but not by much. Probably do 1/4 inch increments to see where we land. We really need to be level whenever we saw all the ends off. If we have to start sawing ends, we're probably going to have to do that. So, you know, this is one of those videos where we'll have to see what happens. See my nail right there. I'm gonna put this post on the outside of that nail, and that's gonna put me 24 feet between the post. If I put it to the inside, then I'm cheating in 1 3/8 on this side and 1 3/8 on that side. But if you put them on the outside, then that makes sure that you end up with 24 feet between the posts. That's pretty good. That's perfectly plumb on both sides. I don't even have to move it. I've never done that before. Probably never do it again. All right, now that our corner posts are in, let's go ahead and start running the posts in between the poles. Those are going to be 4 foot apart. Okay, I don't know if you can see it or not, but this string that I have pulled is on the inside of the post. So I will come and put all my posts on the outside of the line, straight down, and then just barely touch the line, but not moving it. You got to be careful not to move the line, but to barely touch the line. If you move the line, then everything is going to be off and wonky. I have to say, if I have one tip at this point, it would be, if you're going to measure 4 feet on center between your poles, keep your tape on your first pole, because if you measure 4 feet, drive a post, measure 4 feet, drive a post, then your measurements are 100% certain. You're going to get skewed, and you might be an extra foot and a half length added to the length by the time you get to the end of your row. So if you can keep your tape measure at the first post and then center your post every 4 feet, and just to keep extending your tape measure down rather than moving your 4 foot increments down. Okay, today I've got a chair out here. It's not because I'm lazy, it's because it hurts my back to bend over and hold that hammer. And it's once it gets to a certain height, it's easier on my back if I sit down and just use the hammer to tap the stakes in. All right, that's one side down. The other day I went to Harbor Freight and I bought a 360-degree red level line laser. So just to try it out, I came out here the other night at dark, put it on the ground, turned it on, and it shot a line 360 feet or 360 degrees all the way around. And it showed me where my stakes are. This side of the ground is actually way higher than that side of the ground. And so I'm gonna probably end up having to come back, pound this end in the ground a little bit more, and then maybe just cut the tops off where I've beat the tops, they've swelled out, and just cut them off so that I can get pipes, swedged end of the pipes down in there. I'll show you the laser when we get ready to do the laser section. We'll take you and show you straight down the line how straight everything is. And we're gonna get started on the other side. As you can see, I've got almost a perfectly straight line, and every one of those posts should be perfectly straight up and down. Because I got it about this far on the ground before I took the the corner leveling gauge off and put it in the ground the rest of the way. I'm pretty happy with how this turned out so far. I don't know that I would have done anything different. So let's go ahead and get started on the other side. All right, done. I did that whole line in right at an hour. So I'm glad the dirt was somewhat wet. We are in the moist season of the year where we get a little bit of rain. But it's not muddy, it hasn't rained in a week, but the ground's in good shape. So now that it's getting dark, I'm going to bring the laser out here and get it set up. 8 to 12 inches off the ground is where I want my post ultimately to be. And then we'll turn it on and see where we're at. All right, I got my laser here on blocks. If you're curious about it, it's the Bauer brand from Harbor Freight. Cheap, bought it for $100. Just shoots a 360 degree level line. So it's auto leveling. So when I click the unlock button, it self levels. And it'll hold that. Now, one of the things that I've noticed, and I really wasn't expecting, is that after I put it up on blocks and I shot this side over here, just about this far from the top, which is exactly where I want it to be. So I can take the saw, come well below it, and cut off any malformed metal. But when I go over to the other side, I'm about this far from the top. So I've got more stake that I could go back and pound in the ground before I can come up and cut down. So I think I may do that. I may take the hammer and just knock the rest of these in the ground just a little bit more. And then I'll take my marker pen that I have right here. And then I'm going to use my square. I'll put it against the pole and I'll draw a straight line across the pole. That way I can come back during daylight hours and take my saw and cut a nice straight line across the pole. So I'll just kind of give you a little, for instance. I know it's still a little light out and you might not be able to see this laser line very well. You can see it on my hand right here. But right here on the pole is where my laser line is landed. So if I take my square and I come up to where that laser line is, and then I can draw a line to go off of right here. Now I can come back tomorrow and draw a nice level line all the way around that, then take my saw and I'll have something to follow. So that's the idea. Now let me go show you an up close of the other stakes on the other side. Because of the angle of the camera facing down, I've got this much room. So I'm gonna probably take the hammer and drive it in the ground another inch. But my lines are landing about right here, which is more than I expected from the other side. But measuring off the ground, I'm at about 9 inches right here. So I'm well within the tolerance of the instructions. So. Tomorrow morning, come back, cut these off. Okay, new day. I got my jigsaw with a metal cutting blade. Everywhere I marked those posts, we're gonna go through and we're gonna saw off the excess.